It's 1999, the Y2K bug, it's coming for your toaster, the Spice Girls have broken up, and Spider-Man is on another planet, fighting animal people, wearing a suit made of nanobots that he keeps in his wrist. What? Wait, back up.
Take two.
If you grew up in the 90s, you knew your Spider-Man. Yep. He was that guy from that Fox Kids animated series who hung out with Madam Web and was always complaining about his back. But when that show ended in '98, Marvel was in a weird spot. They were literally bankrupt. The movie rights were a legal bowl of spaghetti, to say the least, and they needed a new toy line on the shelves to make some money. The result: Spider-Man Unlimited, a show so bizarre, so not Peter Parker, that it felt like a fever dream sparked by a bad batch of Hostess fruit pies. Today, we're looking at the show that tried to out-edge Batman Beyond, got punched in the face by a yellow electric hamster, and left us on one of the most frustrating cliffhangers in animation history.
Come on, man!
So how did we get here? Why wasn't it just a continuation of the '94 classic? 2 words: legal red tape. Sony had finally untangled the film rights for the live-action Spider-Man movie. Because of that, Marvel and Saban Entertainment, the Power Ranger people, were told that they couldn't do, traditional Spider-Man show. They couldn't use the classic suit, and they couldn't adapt the classic Lee and Ditko stories. They basically told the creators, you can use Spider-Man, but make him different.
Okay, different how?
Like, a space-traveling rebel leader different.
Okay then.
Imagine being told you're writing a Batman TV show, but he's not allowed to be in Gotham and he has to wear a bright orange cape. Yeah, good luck with that.
You serious?
The task fell to Executive Producer Will Meugniot, I hope I got that right, and story editor Michael Reaves. Meugniot was a veteran. Think X-Men the Animated Series and Exosquad. And Reaves was a legend from his Batman the Animated Series days. They initially pitched an idea to adapt the first 50 issues of The Amazing Spider-Man, but the no classic stories mandate came down and they had to pivot, and they pivoted hard. They looked at the Counter-Earth concept from the comics, a world on the other side of the sun, and they decided to turn it into a gritty cyberpunk dystopia, and Saban was all in. The show looked like nothing else on TV. It leaned into a heavy comic book shaded aesthetic, lots of thick lines and high contrast shadows. It was edgy before we knew that word was a warning sign. Voice-wise, we got Rino Romano as Peter Parker. And fun fact, Rino was one of the few actors to ever voice both Spider-Man and Batman. You remember the 2004's The Batman Show? That was him. He brought a snarkier, more youthful energy to Peter than Christopher Daniel Barnes did in the original '94 series. The supporting cast featured the likes of Jennifer Hale and Brian Drummond, who you may know as Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon what?
Spider-Man Unlimited premiered on the 2nd of October 1999. It should have been a big hit, but it had a giant furry yellow problem. Pokémon was a juggernaut. It was eating up the lunch, dinner and dessert of every other Saturday morning cartoon. And Fox Kids, they just panicked.
Don't panic! Don't panic!
They saw the ratings for Unlimited, which actually weren't that bad initially, but they were so terrified of the Pokemon monster that they pulled Spider-Man After only 3 episodes, they literally put the show on hiatus for nearly a year. By that time came around, it was 2000, and the momentum was dead. It was scheduled against the Pokemon anime, and it lost badly.
I don't know how we recover from this.
Only 13 episodes were produced. The season ended with a massive cliffhanger. Life-ending spores descending on the planet. Peter Parker in a desperate battle. And to be continued.
No, you can't do that.
Spoiler alert. It was never continued. There was a script for season 2 written by Larry Brody, and that would have seen Peter return to Earth only to find it had been taken over by the High Evolutionary. But the plug was pulled, leaving poor old Spidey stranded on Counter Earth forever. Well, at least until the royalties run out.
Your time has run out.
The series did some things a little different to the comics. Did you know that the symbiotes Venom and Carnage in this show are completely different to their comic versions, as they don't need to be tethered to a host to get around. They're just these gooey, shape-shifting creatures with a weird shared singular hive mind goal, not quite like the comics. And as for Spidey's costume, we get a cape. Yep, this is the first time we've seen a Spidey-esque sort of cape thing that was very reminiscent of the very first early Steve Ditko drawings where he had the little side things. Also, did you notice how there was no MJ? Instead, we got Naokoto Yamada Jones. Why? Because the writers wanted to lean into the stranger in a strange land trope without the safety net of Peter's, shall we say, original home life.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
If you want to own this piece of weird history, it's a bit of a hunt. The VHS was released in the early 2000s by Buena Vista Home Entertainment, and it was released in a couple of small volumes containing just a couple of episodes. And these are some very relic tier items if you can find them. But for the DVD, the complete series was finally released in 2007 via Liberation Entertainment in the UK, and then later released by Clear Vision Limited on the 3rd of May 2010. Now, both releases are a 2-disc set containing all 13 episodes in Region 2 PAL format. Now, for Blu-ray and 4K HD, don't hold your breath. Aside from the digital release on Disney Plus, there is no plans for any Blu-ray or 4K HD as of this video.
We've got to keep hoping, praying.
Look, I can't say I ever knew this cartoon until I started doing this channel about, a bit over 6 years now. And I came across it when I accidentally was looking for a copy of the original 94 Spider-Man series on DVD, and I saw this on Google, and since there it has had me very intrigued and interested since then to find out what the bloody hell this thing is, this mystery series that no one's ever really talks about. Now, look, the cover gives off a very 2099 vibe, that's for sure, but not in a good way, more like a Temu 2099 Spider-Man way. So straight away you're like, something's not right about this. And as a fan of Spider-Man for many decades, yep, something is definitely not right about this. And why is that?
Do tell.
Well, I've got a theory, and I think I know what it is. So let's just put aside the fact that, yep, they had to change him because of the rights. Okay, we'll put that aside. But I don't think that's it. This cartoon got what I like to call the Saban treatment, and what I mean is, well, let's look at the Avengers United They Stand, another cartoon that got the same treatment because it was released at the same time and was just a failure, as it took the characters and made them extreme with power suits and weird aliens. And hang on, that just sounds like their other show. What was that called? Look, just because the Power Rangers was successful doesn't mean you can turn something else into a pseudo Power Rangers show and it will work. And both of these shows prove that didn't work. I find nothing really endearing about this show at all. The stories were average, the animation was terrible, the whole scenario was a bloody mess, and last but not least, what the f*** is this? This is not Carnage. Not at all. I don't know what the hell this bloody thing is. Look, for me, this is a dismal 3 out of 10. I'm glad I have it in the collection as a collectible, don't get me wrong, but I will not be watching this anytime soon.
I've heard that before.
So, was Spider-Man Unlimited a failure? Commercially, yeah. It was a victim of bad timing and corporate mandates, but artistically, well, it was bold, I'll give it that. It tried to be a Spider-Man 2099 without actually being Spider-Man 2099. Its legacy, if you can call it that, will live in a small little corner of the wider Spider-Verse as we know it. It remains a fascinating time capsule of a moment when Marvel was trying desperately to try really anything to see if it would stick, even sending their flagship character to a furry-themed dystopian parallel universe.
What dummy thought that would work?
Next week on the show, we are going to look at what I picked up for the month of March 2026. I got some great titles to show you, so make sure you tune in for that one. Thanks for watching.